I always thought of him as my dad. Not my stepdad, just dad. He was the man who taught me to ride a bike, who cheered when I scored my first goal, who told me, "A real man doesn't quit, Ethan." I believed every word. I believed in him, but that belief started dying the day Lucas and Mia showed up. They arrived with suitcases and fake smiles. Mom ran to hug them like she'd been waiting her whole life for that moment. Mark's face lit up too, like the sun rose just for them. "Ethan," he said that night at dinner, "this is your brother and sister." I forced a smile. "Yeah, I know. Nice to finally meet you." Lucas barely looked up from his phone. "Right." Mia twirled her hair and said, "Mom said you live here?" "That's cute." Mark chuckled softly. "They just need time to adjust." I nodded, pretending it didn't sting. But something in his voice had already changed. Less warmth, more distance. The next morning, I went out to help him with his car, like always. "Need the wrench?" I asked. He didn't look at me. "Lucas can handle it." Lucas glanced at me and grinned. "Yeah, I've got it, bro." I stepped back, my hands tightening. "Sure?" Mom called from the doorway. "Breakfast's ready?" "Coming," Mark said, wiping his hands, walking right past me like I was air. At breakfast, the table felt smaller. I sat at the end, listening to laughter that didn't include me. Mia was telling a story about her private school. Lucas bragged about some basketball game. Mark looked proud. "That's my boy," he said to Lucas. The words hit harder than I expected. My fork froze in midair. He used to say that to me. Mom caught my eye, her smile faltering. I looked away. Later that night, I found him sitting in the living room, scrolling through old pictures. I sat beside him.
"Hey, Dad."
He glanced at me. "Yeah? Do you ever think about when it was just us three?" He sighed. "Things change, Ethan. They're my kids too." "I know," I said quietly. He cut me off. "Don't make this harder than it is." I wanted to say, "Harder for who?" But instead, I just nodded. Days passed, and I started feeling like a guest in my own house. Lucas took my room, saying he needed the bigger one. I moved into the small guest room without arguing. One night, I overheard voices in the kitchen. Mia said, "Why is he still here?" "It's weird," Mark replied. "He'll move out soon. He's not really my son, you know." I froze. The words echoed in my head like a gunshot. "He's not really my son." I wanted to storm in and scream. "Then why did you teach me to call you Dad? Why did you pretend to care?" But I didn't. I just walked back to my room, packed my bag, and sat on the bed shaking. Mom found me a few minutes later. "Ethan, what are you doing?" "I heard him," I said. My voice cracked. "I'm leaving." Her face crumpled. "Don't say that." "He didn't mean it." "He said it, Mom." I zipped my bag. "I'm not staying where I'm not wanted." Tears filled her eyes. "He'll come around." "He's just confused." I looked at her, really looked at her. The woman who'd tried to hold this broken family together. "He already made his choice." She grabbed my arm. "Please don't go. You're all I have that feels real." Her words nearly broke me, but I pulled away gently. "You'll always have me, Mom. Just not here." I walked out the front door, bag slung over my shoulder. The night air was cold, sharp against my skin. I stood on the porch staring at the dim light in the living room. I could see their silhouettes through the window, Mark laughing with Lucas, Mia scrolling on her phone. No one noticed I was gone. I started walking down the street, my shoes crunching against the gravel. Each step felt heavier than the last. I didn't have a plan, just the need to leave before the house swallowed me whole. Halfway down the block, I heard Mom's voice behind me. "Ethan, please!" I turned around. Her hair was messy, her eyes red. She ran up to me, breathless. "Don't go like this." I swallowed hard. "I have to." "Where will you even go?" "I'll figure it out," I said. "I always do." She looked back toward the house. "He'll regret this one day." I forced a smile. "Yeah, maybe by then it won't matter." She hugged me tight, sobbing into my shoulder. I hugged her back, trying not to break down. "I love you, Mom." "I love you too," she whispered. "Don't let his words define you." When I finally let go, she stood there watching as I walked away. I didn't look back until I reached the end of the street. She was still standing there, small under the yellow porch light, arms crossed around herself like she was holding her heart together. That was the last night I called that place home. I didn't cry until I reached the bus stop. That's when it hit me. How someone could love you for years and then suddenly decide you were never really theirs. As the bus pulled up, I wiped my face and whispered, "Goodbye, Dad." He'd never hear it. But somehow I needed to say it, and as the bus drove away, all I could think about was how something so broken still managed to hurt this much. I never thought I'd see Mom in a coffin. The church smelled like lilies and cheap perfume, the kind they buy in bulk for funerals. People whispered, cried softly, and hugged each other. I just stood there staring at her still face, waiting for her to open her eyes. Mark walked over, voice low. "Ethan, we're starting the service. Please sit with the others." I glanced at the front row. Lucas and Mia were already seated beside him. I stayed standing. "I'd like to say a few words," I said. His jaw tightened. "Let's keep it family only." I blinked at him. "Family only?" He didn't answer. He just turned away. Pastor Ryan gave me a sympathetic look as he approached the podium. "We gather here today to honor Julia." His words blurred. I kept hearing Mark's voice in my head, "Family only." I wanted to scream that I was family, that Mom used to call me her heartbeat, but I said nothing. When the service ended, I walked to the casket. Lucas leaned close, voice low. "You don't belong here." "Don't make a scene," I looked at him, my voice shaking. "I'm not here for you," he smirked. "You never were." Mia stood behind him, arms crossed, eyes cold. "You're embarrassing yourself, Ethan. Just leave." I ignored them and placed a single white rose on the coffin. "Goodbye, Mom," I whispered. "I hope you know I tried." As I stepped back, Lucas leaned in and whispered, "You're not family." The words hit like a punch. I turned and walked out before the tears could fall. Outside, the air was sharp and quiet. I sat on the church steps, staring at the ground until an old voice broke the silence. "You shouldn't let them steal your goodbye," Mrs. Gray said softly. She was our old neighbor, wrapped in a faded shawl. I forced a smile. "They already did," she shook her head. "No, child. Grief is between you and her. No one else gets to take that." I looked away. He wouldn't even let me speak. "Mark's drowning in guilt," she said. "But don't let his choices harden you. Your mother's heart was gentle. Don't lose that." Her words almost undid me. "I don't think I have much left of her." Mrs. Grace touched my shoulder. "Then start by forgiving yourself for surviving." I nodded, not trusting my voice. After she left, Pastor Ryan found me still sitting there. "You okay, son?" "Not really." He sat beside me. "Your mother talked about you often. She said you carried too much weight for someone your age." I swallowed hard. "She deserved better." He looked toward the sky. "Sometimes the only way to honor someone good is to live like they taught you." "I don't know how anymore." "Then start with not becoming what hurt you," he said quietly. I didn't respond. The church bells started ringing, echoing across the empty parking lot. It felt like a countdown. One life ending, another beginning. That night, I went home for the last time. The house smelled like her cooking, even though she hadn't been in the kitchen for weeks. Her scarf was still on the couch. Her favorite mug sat by the sink. Every corner whispered her name. Mark sat in the living room, staring at the wall. "You didn't have to make a scene today," he said flatly. I dropped my bag on the floor. "You didn't have to stop me from saying goodbye. She was my wife. She was my mother." He turned, eyes cold. "You're not my son," I laughed bitterly. "Yeah, I remember." Mia appeared in the doorway. "Dad, just leave him." Mark's voice rose. "Don't tell me what to do." I stepped closer. "You already did enough. You made it clear where I stand." He looked at me, his face twisted with something between anger and regret. "You can hate me all you want, but she'd want you to stay." "I can't stay here." "Where will you go?" he asked. "Anywhere that doesn't feel like this," I said. He didn't reply. He just turned away. I went to my room, Lucas's room now. My old posters were gone, replaced with trophies that weren't mine. I pulled Mom's photo from my drawer, the one where she had her arm around me, smiling like she believed I could take on the world. I slipped it into my duffel bag. As I zipped it shut, I whispered, "I'm sorry, Mom." I tried to hold on. When I stepped outside, the night air felt heavier than before. The house behind me glowed with warm light, but it didn't feel like home. Mrs. Grace stood by her gate. "You're leaving?" "Yeah," I said quietly. "I can't breathe in there anymore." She nodded slowly. "Then go, but don't run forever." Pain follows if you never face it. I'm not running, I said. I'm escaping. There's a difference, she said. You'll learn it one day. I forced a small smile. Maybe. She watched as I walked down the street, her voice calling softly behind me. Be kind to the boy inside you, Ethan. He's hurting too. The bus stop was empty. I sat on the cold bench, clutching Mom's photo. The city lights glimmered far away, promising nothing but distance. When the bus arrived, I took one last look toward the house. Mark's silhouette stood in the window, motionless. Maybe he was watching me leave, or maybe he didn't care. Either way, I stepped onto the bus and didn't look back. As the engine roared to life, I whispered to the photo in my hands, I'll make you proud. Mom, even if it kills me. The road stretched ahead, endless and dark, but at least it was mine. Table 6 needs water again, the manager barked. I nodded, grabbed the pitcher, and tried not to think. The sound of dishes, the hiss of frying oil, it all blurred together after 3 years in the city. I washed plates until my hands cracked. I delivered food in the rain until my shoes tore apart. Tyler leaned against the counter, tossing me a towel. Man, you look like a ghost. I feel like one, I muttered. He chuckled. You still stalking your old man's fancy family online? I froze, towel halfway to my face. No, liar, he said, grinning. You think I don't notice you checking their photos when you think no one's watching? I stopped, I said sharply. Then quieter. I had to. Tyler's smirk faded. Good, they forgot you, bro. Let 'em. I know, I whispered. But I can't forget the way he used to call me son. He sighed, wiping his hands on his apron. You can't live on memories. That's poison, I didn't answer. The night air outside smelled like rain and regret when I finally walked home. My apartment was a box, peeling paint, flickering bulb, but it was mine. I dropped my duffel on the floor, the same one I'd left home with years ago. The phone rang. Unknown number. Hello? Silence for a moment. Then Ethan? A woman's voice. Soft, shaky Mia? I hadn't heard that name in years. Yeah, it's me. I swallowed. What do you want? Her voice trembled. It's Dad. He's sick. Really sick, I laughed, sharp and humorless. The man who told me I wasn't his son? That one? Ethan, please, she said. He needs you. Now he does. I sat down on the bed, running a hand through my hair. Where was he when I needed him? She sniffed. I don't know, but I thought you should hear it from me. I said nothing. The silence stretched like a wound reopening. Mom would have wanted you to come, she whispered. That stopped me cold. I closed my eyes, hearing my mother's voice in my head, soft, patient, warm. Don't let hate make your home, Ethan, Mia, I said finally, my voice low. I'll think about it, she sighed. Thank you. The line went dead. I sat there in the dim light for what felt like hours. My chest ached, but not from anger. Something heavier, older. The next morning, Tyler spotted me staring at the wall instead of prepping for work. You okay, man? Mia called, I said. His eyebrows rose. Your sister? Stepsister, I corrected automatically. He frowned. What happened? Mark's sick. She wants me to come back, Tyler whistled. So the king's falling off his throne. Guess so. You gonna go? I stared at my reflection in the cracked window. My eyes looked older than 27. I don't know. Why should I? Tyler shrugged. Because sometimes walking away isn't strength, it's just running in circles. I glared at him. You sound like a therapist. Maybe, he said with a grin. But I'm right. Later that day, while we wiped down tables, I found myself saying, he never called. Not once. Not even when Mom died. Tyler's expression softened. You don't owe him anything. I know, I said quietly. But I owe myself peace. That night, I walked through the city streets, neon signs reflecting in puddles. My phone buzzed again. Another message from Mia. Please. He keeps asking for you. My stomach twisted. I deleted the text. Then, 5 minutes later, I took my jacket and left my apartment. The bus ride home was long and quiet. Every streetlight felt like a question I didn't want to answer. When I reached the edge of town, the old streets looked smaller. The bakery Mom used to love was gone. The house still stood, but the windows were dark. I stood outside, heart pounding. The door opened and Mia appeared. She froze when she saw me. You came. I'm not sure why, I admitted. She gave a small smile. Because you still care, I didn't respond. Inside, the house smelled different, sterile, empty. Dr. Patel looked up from the hallway. You must be Ethan. Yeah, he nodded. Your father's condition is serious. The hospital suggested comfort care. He doesn't have much time. I stared past him. Does he even know I'm here? Patel's voice softened.
He asked for you every night this week. That hit harder than I wanted to admit. Mia touched my arm.
You should see him. I hesitated, then stepped toward the bedroom door. My hand trembled as I reached for the handle. Through the crack, I saw him. Older, weaker, pale against the pillow. The man who once made me feel like I didn't belong. Ethan? His voice was barely a whisper. I froze. Every word I'd ever wanted to say, every accusation, every question stuck in my throat. Yes, I said finally. It's me, his eyes filled with tears. I didn't deserve you. My chest tightened. I could have walked away. I should have, but instead I pulled up a chair. Rest, I said softly. We can talk later. As he drifted back to sleep, I sat there in silence, watching the man who once defined my pain fade into something human again. Tyler was right. Sometimes coming back wasn't weakness. It was the only way to finally let go. The moment I stepped inside, the air felt heavy, like the walls still remembered me but pretended not to. Mia whispered, It's strange, right? Coming back? Strange? I looked at the living room. It's like walking into someone else's life. The photos on the wall caught my eye. Family portraits, smiles, matching sweaters. I scanned each frame. Not one had me in it. I forced a laugh. Guess they erased the extra kid. Mia lowered her head. It wasn't like that. Don't, I cut in. You don't have to explain. From the hallway, a voice said coldly, Didn't expect you to actually show up. I turned. Lucas stood there, arms crossed. His eyes were the same, sharp, smug. Yeah, well, I said. I didn't come to see you. He smirked. Good, because you're not exactly welcome. Lucas! Mia snapped. Stop it, he shrugged. What, he ran off years ago. Now he thinks he can just walk back in? I stepped closer, my jaw tight. I didn't walk back in. I was called. By who, Dad? The man you walked out on? I walked out after he told me I wasn't his son, I said quietly. That shut him up for a second. Mia sighed. Enough, both of you. I looked past them toward the hallway. Where is he? She pointed to the bedroom. He's awake, but be gentle. I wasn't sure if I could be. I opened the door slowly. The smell of medicine and old fabric filled the air. Mark lay in the bed, frail and small beneath the sheets. For a second, I almost didn't recognize him. When his eyes met mine, they widened. You came. I didn't come for you, I said. My voice cracked, but I forced it steady. I came for the man who raised me before he forgot who I was. He tried to smile, but it looked painful. That man never forgot you. Could have fooled me. He looked down, shame flickering across his face. I was wrong, Ethan. I let anger blind me. I folded my arms. Anger? That's what you call throwing your son out? He didn't answer. The silence filled the room like static. Mia peeked in. I'll bring some soup, she whispered and slipped away. I wanted to leave, but something in me didn't move. His breathing was shallow, uneven. I pulled up a chair without meaning to. He watched me. You still hate me. I don't know what I feel anymore. He nodded slowly. That's fair. For a while, neither of us spoke. The clock ticked, steady and cruel. Finally, he coughed. I keep thinking about your mother. About the promise I made to her to protect you. I clenched my fists. You broke that promise. I know. His voice cracked. And I've lived with that every day. Something inside me twisted. I wanted to stay angry, to remind him of every scar he left. But all I saw was a man dying with regret. Eat, I said after a long silence, grabbing the tray Mia left. You need strength, he smiled faintly. You sound like her. That hit harder than it should have. I placed the spoon in his hand. Just eat, his fingers shook. The spoon clattered to the plate. Without thinking, I caught it and fed him myself. Thanks, he whispered. Don't thank me, I said quickly. I'm just doing what needs to be done. But I felt it, the warmth in my chest I didn't want to name. Later that night, Mia found me sitting by his bed. You don't have to stay, she said softly. I can take the next shift. I'm fine. She studied my face. You still care. I looked away. I shouldn't. Maybe you don't have to hate him to heal, she said. I didn't respond. The thought scared me. When she left, Mark stirred. Ethan? Yeah?
Do you remember the treehouse we built?
I almost smiled. The one you said would last forever? He chuckled weakly. It didn't. Just like everything else I tried to hold together. You could have tried harder, he nodded. You're right. His voice lowered. I wish I had. I sat there watching his chest rise and fall. Every breath sounded like an apology he couldn't finish. The next morning, I helped change his bandages. My hands moved automatically, careful, practiced. He flinched once. You've done this before. I've done a lot of things alone, I said. He sighed. You shouldn't have had to. Something in his tone made my throat tighten. It's done, I said. The past doesn't change. He looked at me then, really looked. Maybe not, but people can, I didn't answer. I couldn't. When he drifted off to sleep, I sat back in the chair, exhausted. Lucas passed the door and muttered, Didn't think you'd last a day. Neither did I said quietly. He frowned, maybe realizing he'd lost the right to mock me. By evening, I found myself watching Mark's chest rise and fall, steady, fragile. I hated that my heart still cared, but maybe it wasn't weakness. Maybe it was the only piece of mom still alive in me. As I turned off the lamp, I whispered, I don't forgive you, but I'm here. He stirred slightly, and for the first time his face looked at peace. And for a moment, so did mine. The argument started before breakfast. I'm not wasting my time on a dying old man. Lucas's voice thundered down the hallway. I froze halfway to the kitchen, gripping the tray of oatmeal I'd made for Mark. Mark's frail voice called out, Lucas, please. Not like this. Not like what? Lucas snapped. You think this house, this mess is my responsibility? You made your choice when you picked him over us. I stepped in. You're unbelievable. He turned to me, his eyes burning. Don't start, Ethan. You've been here 5 minutes and suddenly you're the saint? I'm not pretending, I said. I'm just doing what a son should. Lucas laughed bitterly. You're not his son. I felt my jaw tighten. Maybe not by blood. But where are his real ones right now? Don't, he warned. You don't get to talk about family. Mark's voice trembled. Lucas, stop it. But Lucas didn't. You think you can buy your way into his love with a few bowls of soup and fake pity? I slammed the tray on the counter. At least I showed up. For a moment, silence filled the room. Then Lucas muttered, I'm done, and stormed out, the door slamming so hard the walls shook. Mark's breathing quickened. Ethan, don't fight him. I didn't start it, I said quietly. He nodded weakly. He's angry because he's scared. Of what? Responsibility? Of losing me. He gave a tired smile. But I already lost him. I didn't know what to say. The man who once made me feel unwanted now looked like a child begging not to be left alone. Later that evening, Mia arrived just long enough to stand by the door. I can't stay long, she said, eyes on her phone. Mark's eyes softened. Just sit with me for a while. I have an early meeting, she murmured. You used to hold my hand when you were little, he said, voice fragile. You said you'd never leave, she forced a laugh. I was 5, Dad. I wanted to tell her to stop, but Mark just nodded. Right, 5, she adjusted her purse strap. You're in good hands. Ethan's here. Mia, I said, trying to keep calm. He needs you. She didn't look at me. He needs peace. Then she left. Mark's eyes followed her until the door clicked shut. She didn't even hug me. I sat down beside him. She's scared too, he looked at me. Do you believe that? No, I admitted. But it's kinder than the truth. He let out a shaky breath. I raised them to be strong. Maybe I taught them strength without compassion. You taught me both, I said quietly. His eyes glistened. I wish I'd said that sooner. For the next few days, the house grew quieter. No footsteps in the hall. No laughter, no arguing, just the hum of the oxygen machine and the slow rhythm of Mark's breathing. I spent mornings helping him eat, afternoons changing his dressings. Sometimes he'd ask questions that broke me. Do you hate them? I shook my head. No, they're just lost, he smiled faintly. Like I was. That night, as rain tapped against the windows, I heard him whisper my name. I rushed to his side. His eyes were wet. They don't care. Do they? I froze. His voice was so small, like a child asking for the truth. I don't know, I said. Maybe they don't know how. He looked away. That's not an answer. I don't have one, I said softly. His lip trembled. I gave them everything. Every opportunity, every comfort. And still, I couldn't keep their hearts. They'll regret it one day, I said. He shook his head. Regret won't fix what love didn't finish. Then for the first time since I'd known him, Mark cried. Not silent tears, but raw, broken sobs that tore through the room. I stood there, unsure whether to touch him. Then instinct took over. I sat beside him and held his shaking hand. I'm sorry, he whispered between gasps. For everything I did to you. For what I didn't do, I swallowed hard. You don't have to say that now. I do. His grip tightened. You were the one who stayed. I wanted to tell him I stayed because of Mom, because of duty, but deep down, I knew it wasn't that simple. He looked up at me through tear-streaked cheeks. You were the son I didn't deserve. Don't say that. It's true, he said. I see it now. Lucas wants my money. Mia wants distance, but you want peace. I didn't answer. My chest hurt too much. Outside, thunder rolled in the distance. The rain grew louder, as if the world was mourning with him. When his sobs finally stopped, he whispered, You remind me of your mother. She forgave too easily. I didn't forgive, I said quietly. I just couldn't walk away again. He smiled weakly. That's love, Ethan, even when it hurts. We sat in silence for a long time. His hand was cold in mine, but I didn't let go. Lucas and Mia didn't come back the next day. Or the next week. The house stayed empty, but I didn't feel alone anymore. Somewhere between anger and forgiveness, something shifted. The boy he threw away was gone. The man sitting beside him, he was someone new. And as Mark drifted to sleep, still clutching my hand, I realized something I never expected. I wasn't there to repay pain with bitterness. I was there to make peace with the ghost of the man who once called me son. The rain had stopped hours ago, but the air in the house still felt damp, heavy with silence. Mark hadn't eaten all day. I sat by the window watching the clouds drift past when I heard his voice, barely a whisper. Ethan. Can you come here? I stood immediately, my chest tightening. He sounded weaker than usual, his words broken by shallow breaths. When I entered the room, he was staring at the ceiling, his skin pale against the pillow. You should rest, I said softly. He shook his head. No, I need to talk. About what? I pulled the chair closer, sitting beside him. About us, I didn't say anything. The last time he'd tried to talk about the past, he'd ended up coughing and apologizing for things he never named. I was cruel to you, he said suddenly. His voice cracked, raw and small. I treated you like a stranger when you were the only one who tried to be family. I stared at him, unsure if I'd heard right. You don't have to... I do, he interrupted. You were more of a son than I deserved. The words hit me harder than I expected. I'd imagined hearing them so many times, but now that they were real, they didn't bring the relief I thought they would. I swallowed hard. Why are you saying this now? He smiled weakly. Because I don't know if I'll get another chance. Don't talk like that, I said, my voice breaking. You're not dying? He chuckled softly. I've been dying for years, Ethan, just too proud to admit it. I clenched my fists. You don't get to joke about that, his eyes softened. You still care. Of course I care, I said. I wish I didn't sometimes, but I do. He closed his eyes, tears forming at the corners. When I pushed you away, I told myself it was for the best. I thought blood mattered more than love. I was wrong. I felt the words settle deep in my chest. You were angry. You didn't know what you were doing. He shook his head weakly. No, Ethan, I knew exactly what I was doing. I wanted to hurt someone who reminded me of my own failures. I looked down, the old pain stirring again. You did hurt me. I know, he whispered. And I've lived with that every day. For a moment, I didn't trust myself to speak. Then I said, I forgave you a long time ago. I just never said it out loud. His lips trembled into a faint smile. You forgave me? I nodded. Yeah. It doesn't erase what happened, but it means I don't carry it anymore. A long silence followed. The clock ticked slowly and his breathing grew shallower. Your mother would be proud, he murmured. That made me look up. You think so? I know so. His hand trembled as he reached for mine. You loved me when I gave you every reason not to. That's something only she could have taught you. I felt a lump rise in my throat. She always believed in second chances, and I wasted most of mine, he said. Except this one, talking to you before it's too late. It's not too late, I whispered. You're still here, he smiled sadly. For now, I tightened my grip on his hand. Then let's use the time we have. He nodded slowly, closing his eyes. Tell me something, Ethan. Did you ever hate me? I hesitated. Sometimes, but not the way you think. I hated the silence, the distance, the way I kept hoping you'd look at me and see your son again. He opened his eyes, glassy and tired. And now? Now, I said softly. I just see a man who finally did. His breathing hitched, but he smiled. That's all I needed to hear. I leaned back in the chair, the weight in my chest loosening for the first time in years. He whispered, I'm sorry, Ethan. I know, I said. And I believe you. The room grew quiet again, only the faint hum of the oxygen machine breaking the stillness. After a while, his grip loosened. If I don't wake up tomorrow, he said, don't let anger be the last thing between us. I won't, I promised. He smiled faintly. Good. I sat there watching him, his eyes fluttering open and closed, his face soft, peaceful. I wanted to say something more, to tell him that despite everything, I loved him, but the words felt too heavy to speak. Instead, I just whispered, Rest, Mark. He nodded weakly, his lips moving without sound. Then his breathing steadied, slow and fragile. For the first time in years, I didn't feel the ache of resentment or the sting of loss. What I felt was quiet, pure, unshakable peace. The boy who had begged to be seen was gone. The man sitting beside him finally understood that forgiveness wasn't a gift you gave to someone else. It was what you gave yourself when you were ready to stop bleeding. When I finally turned off the light, his last words echoed in my mind, Your mother would be proud. And for the first time since she died, I believed it. The room was silent except for the rustle of papers. The lawyer cleared his throat, his voice flat and steady. This is the final will and testament of Mark Weston. Lucas leaned back in his chair, arms crossed. Let's just get this over with. Mia sat beside him, eyes red but dry. She hadn't cried since the funeral. I stood near the window watching the rain slide down the glass. I didn't belong in that room, but somehow I was still there. The lawyer continued, To my daughter Mia, I leave my art collection. To my son Lucas, I leave the remaining shares of Weston & Co. Lucas smirked. As it should be. And to Ethan, the lawyer paused, glancing up at me. I leave the family home, along with a letter. Lucas's head snapped up. What? Mia frowned. That can't be right. The lawyer adjusted his glasses. It's written here in his own words. For the one who stayed when everyone else left. Lucas slammed his hand on the table. He was drugged, confused. You, he pointed at me, eyes burning. You manipulated him. I turned slowly, meeting his glare. I didn't have to manipulate him, Lucas. He just finally saw who cared. He laughed bitterly. You think living here for a few weeks makes you family? You were a charity case. I clenched my fists, forcing myself to breathe. Maybe, but I was the one feeding him when you were too busy to call. That's not... Mia cut in softly. Lucas, stop. He turned on her. Don't defend him. She looked down. I'm not defending anyone. But Dad wasn't blind. He knew what he was doing. Lucas stood, face red with fury. You're all insane. He kicked the chair back and stormed toward the door. Enjoy your guilt money, Ethan. The door slammed. The sound echoed through the room like a final verdict. The lawyer gathered the papers. If there are no disputes, there are, Mia said, interrupting. But not the kind you handle. She looked at me for a long time. He really left it to you? I nodded. Yes, her eyes softened. He must have meant it. I didn't answer. I couldn't. The weight of the envelope in my hand felt heavier than any key I'd ever held. Outside, the rain had stopped. I stepped out onto the porch, breathing in the damp air. For years, that house had been a symbol of everything I'd lost. My mother, my childhood, my sense of belonging. Now it was mine, but it didn't feel like victory. Mia followed me out quietly. You know he talked about you, she said. I turned. About me? She nodded. Before he died, he said he didn't deserve your forgiveness. I looked down at the letter still sealed in my hand. He was right about that, but I gave it anyway. Mia bit her lip. I wish I'd been here more. I didn't say anything. Some truths didn't need answers. She stepped back toward the door. Take care of the place. It's still home, even if it doesn't feel like it. When she was gone, I sat on the steps and opened the letter. The handwriting was shaky but familiar. Ethan, I don't know how to start this. I spent too many years resenting what I didn't understand. You reminded me what family really means, not by blood, but by choice. I hope you forgive me, but if you can't, I understand. This house is yours now. I just hope it finally feels like home. Mark, I read it twice, my chest tightening. All the years I spent wanting an apology, and here it was, too late to say it to his face. Still, it mattered. I folded the letter carefully and slipped it into my pocket. Lucas's car engine roared somewhere down the street. I didn't chase after him. I didn't need to. Some people have to lose everything before they understand what they had. I walked back inside, the floor creaking beneath my steps. Every photo on the wall still showed the same smiling faces, Mark, Lucas, Mia, but not me. That part hadn't changed, but as I reached the living room, I saw a new frame on the mantel. It was small, almost hidden behind the others. Inside it was a picture of me and Mark from a few months ago, his arm weakly resting on my shoulder. I stared at it for a long time. The house was quiet, but not empty anymore. When I finally turned off the lights, I whispered into the silence. I stayed. Mark, not for what you left me, but for what you finally gave. The walls didn't answer, but they didn't need to. For the first time in years, I didn't feel like a stranger in that house. I felt seen, and as I closed the door behind me, letter still in hand, I realized no inheritance could ever equal that. The cemetery was quiet except for the sound of wind brushing through the trees. The sky hung heavy and gray, like the world hadn't quite forgiven itself yet. I walked slowly toward his grave, clutching the flowers in my hand, white lilies, Mom's favorite. When I reached the headstone, I knelt down. Hey, I said softly. It's been a while. My voice cracked, and I hated how small it sounded. I placed the flowers in front of the stone and brushed the dirt from his name. Mark Weston, no title, no grand words. Just a name that once carried weight I could never live up to. I brought Mom's lilies, I whispered. You used to say they reminded you of her. The silence around me was thick. It wasn't the kind that made me uneasy. It was the kind that listened. I forgive you, Dad. The words came out before I could think. And when they did, I felt something unclench inside me. Behind me, footsteps crunched on the gravel. I didn't turn. I already knew who it was. I didn't think you'd come, I said quietly. Mia's voice trembled. I almost didn't. She stopped a few steps away. I didn't know what to say to you. You don't have to say anything. I do, she said. I was awful. We all were. I saw how he treated you and stayed silent. That's on me. I stood, brushing the dirt from my jeans. You were kids. It wasn't your job to fix what he broke. Mia shook her head. Maybe not. But it was my job to see you. And I didn't. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. The wind tugged at her hair, carrying the faint smell of rain. Finally, she whispered, You deserved better. I looked at her, really looked at her. The guilt in her eyes wasn't the sharp kind that cuts. It was the heavy kind that lingers. So did he, I said. She frowned. After everything? You still think that? I nodded. Yeah, he deserved a chance to make it right. And he took it, even if it came too late. Mia wrapped her arms around herself. He used to talk about you at the end. Said you reminded him of Mom, I exhaled. He told me once she'd be proud. I didn't believe him then. Do you now? I looked back at the grave. Yeah, I think I do. We stood there in silence. The clouds shifted, and a sliver of sunlight slipped through, falling across the stone. It made the letters shine, like the world wanted me to notice them one last time. Mia knelt down beside the flowers. You really forgave him? I had to, I said. Not for him, for me, she nodded slowly. I wish I could do that. You will, I said. When you're ready. Her eyes filled with tears. You sound like him, I almost laughed. Guess that's the part of him I got to keep. We both smiled faintly. It felt strange, how something so broken could still bring warmth. Mia touched the stone gently. Do you ever think about what life could have been if he'd said those words sooner? All the time, I admitted. But maybe it had to happen this way. Maybe we both needed to lose something to learn what love actually means. She stood and wiped her eyes. You've changed. I had to, I said again, this time softer. Anger doesn't keep you warm forever. She took a deep breath. I'm glad you came back. I didn't come back, I said, looking at the grave one last time. I just finally stopped running, Mia nodded. That's enough. When she walked away, I stayed a little longer. The air was cold, but it didn't sting anymore. I think I get it now, I said to the stone. You were scared. You didn't know how to love me the way I needed, but you tried at the end, and that's what I'll remember. The wind carried my words away, like it wanted to take them somewhere he could hear. I forgive you, Dad, I said again, steadier this time, and I hope wherever you are, you finally see me. I traced my fingers over his name one last time, then stood. The flowers swayed gently in the breeze, their white petals catching bits of sunlight. As I turned to leave, the sky began to clear. I didn't look back. I didn't need to. Forgiveness wasn't a gift I gave him. It was the freedom I gave myself. Every step away from that grave felt lighter. Like the years of resentment were falling off with the dust beneath my shoes. For the first time in years, I didn't feel like the boy he pushed away. I felt like the son he finally saw.